Hello, I'm Professor Melanie Martel, President of Faculty Council. And on behalf of your faculty and the Convocation Committee and all of us at NHTI, I'm here to welcome you to the 2020 Convocation. Convocation is the Latin term for coming together, and it has been our tradition here at NHTI to come together as a group at least twice every academic year. You might think of graduation, where we come together at the end of the academic year to recognize your achievements and wish you well on your next step. But Convocation is the way we come together at the beginning of the academic year to start together on our journey as a community. But coming together is a very powerful term these days. And can we come together, or should we be coming together? And my answer to you is an emphatic yes. Here at NHTI, we are not just coexisting, we are collaborating. And every single one of us is working together with one sole focus in mind. We're working together to help you achieve your academic goals. From the President's Office to the bursars, to the financial aid, the registrar, the Academic Center for Excellence, the Learning Commons, information technology, buildings and grounds, and safety, every single area is working together to reach out, communicate with you, and to support you in new and innovative ways. As your faculty develop curriculum that is accessible, rich, and engaging, we're hoping to help you reach your goals and have a successful year. So today you'll hear from three people. First, our president, Dr. Gretchen Mullin-Sawicki, and she'll be followed by Aidan Hastings, your Student Senate president. And finally, you'll be engaged and inspired and given fuel and food for thought by our keynote speaker, Deo Mwano. So let me be the first to wish you an excellent convocation and a successful, healthy, and productive academic year.
Hello everyone, I am Gretchen Mullin-Sawicki, the President of NHTI Concord Community College, and I'm welcoming you to our first ever virtual convocation. This ceremony marks a special place in your academic careers because it is truly the first official beginning of your education at NHTI. Convocation at NHTI is about welcoming you into the college and your academic programs. Convocation is about inspiration, connection, and new beginnings. As you start your education at NHTI, we want to make sure you know how much we care about you and your success. It is our goal to support your learning, your engagement in the NHTI community, and your educational needs. Convocation is the first of two bookends. It is opening the book, while graduation is closing the book or beginning a new chapter in your education. Today should be a day that you keenly remember, as is your introduction to your path of becoming nurses or dental hygienists, architects, engineers, teachers, business leaders or owners, or even counselors. Today marks a beginning, and beginnings are always full of excitement, fear, thrill, and nervous energy. So enjoy the full plate of emotions today, and know that we are just as excited, thrilled, and anxious for you and your success here at NHTI. Enjoy the emotion of convocation and know that you absolutely belong here. We are here for you. Today, we thought it only appropriate, in light of the social unrest and with our lives being impacted by COVID-19, that the reflection of this convocation be about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is the fourth pillar of NHTI's 5-year strategic plan. Deo Mwano will be keynoting our convocation with the theme, "We are all human," where he will guide us to look internally through self-reflection, but also with action to confront our bias and to see that we are all human beings. Today, we will also acknowledge students and faculty in 6 academic programs: Arts, Humanities, Communications and Design, Business Programs, Health Sciences and Services, Hospitality and Culinary, Social, Educational and Behavioral Sciences, Science, Technology, Engineering and Math, and of course our non-matriculated students who are still determining which educational paths that they will embark on. Congratulations, students, faculty, staff, and administration, to today's new beginning, and welcome to the Fall 2020 Convocation ceremony.
Hello everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Aidan Hastings. I'm a second-year student in the Architectural Engineering program, and I'm currently serving as your Student Senate President. I'd like to share with you all today, especially the freshman students, a few words and a bit of advice based on my experience last year as a freshman. When I arrived on campus last fall, I was very much an introvert. I still am today, but it's much less so. Despite being shy though, when I had opportunities to get involved on campus, I took them. I ran cross-country, joined my hall council, joined the Student Senate, and partook in several extracurriculars all throughout the year. Each opportunity I took opened more doors, led to more friendships and connections, and enabled me to make a bigger difference at our school. Looking back upon last year, I met so many awesome people, students and faculty alike, and I could fill a resume with all of the awesome stuff I did. I know if I hadn't taken the time to get out of my comfort zone and get involved, I would have missed out on a truly lavish first year of college, and I know I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today. My advice to you all would be, really go ham trying to get involved this year. Your experience here is what you make it, and NHTI is really a phenomenal school with so much to offer. In addition to the education aspect, we've got more clubs, organizations, and sports than you could shake a stick at. And I know this year is not going to be exactly like the last, especially due to the coronavirus. However, the entire faculty, including the Student Life Department, is dedicated towards making the best out of this situation. I urge you all to really try your best to get engaged this year, whether on campus activities or with online activities. You can still be involved and engaged, and the benefits of doing so will very much be worth it. I also have the privilege and the pleasure today to introduce to you our guest speaker, Mr. Deo Mwano. Mr. Mwano is a man of many talents. As the head honcho of his own consultancy firm, he travels about performing, giving speeches, and hosting programs and workshops to help promote education, technology, community, business, and individual growth and development. He holds degrees in both strategic leadership and international relations and history, and has been recognized in New Hampshire as an emerging leader in our state, even being named to the New Hampshire Top 40 Under 40, an annual recognition of individuals who made great contributions to their communities. Also, off the record, Mr. Mwano also does some pretty slick dancing. I'm not sure if this is on our itinerary today. If not, I'd recommend you look it up. But either way, I'm sure you're all in for a terrific treat today. Without further ado, Mr. Deo Mwano.
Hello NHTI, this is Deo Mwano. I am so excited to be here with you guys today as your keynote speaker. I would have preferred to be in person to see you guys. You guys are lucky because I probably would have made you guys dance live if I was there in person. So let's hold that off for next time. I live in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I've been living here for the last 20 years. I'm super excited to be your keynote speaker today. This feels like it's like a backyard thing, right? Like I live in New Hampshire. This is a presentation where I'm doing here. I get to work with organizations all over the country, but for this presentation, I'm here with you guys. First of all, I want to say thank you to President Gretchen for the amazing introduction. I also want to say thank you to Aidan for introducing me. I am pumped to be here. I wanted to start off with this video. With this video, in the middle of the quarantine, I said, you know what, the weather is getting better. I got to get my kids outside to engage and to be active. So what I decided to do is I bought them a bicycle without training wheels. So yes, I'm a father of 3 children. My oldest is 7.5. I got a 6-year-old and I got a 4-year-old. She's the boss lady, 2 boys and a girl. She runs the house. So what happened was we bought the bike, we brought it over, and within 15 minutes, my middle child starts riding the bike without a training wheel. I looked at my oldest son, I was like, oh man, I feel bad that he's not able to ride the bike without training wheel. And then that night I started to think, is my parking lot too small for my oldest to be able to ride his bike? So what we did is the next day, we stepped out and we went to a middle school, and they have a huge parking lot and nobody was there. And all of a sudden, my son gets on the bike, I kid you not, on the first try, he was riding his bicycle. I started to reflect inside and I said, wow, sometimes the bigger the challenge is, the more we are ready to show that we can accomplish the task that's presented. For my son, in the small parking lot driveway that we had at my house, he struggled riding the bike. But when we went to an open space where I would have thought that, oh my gosh, that might be harder, he was able to succeed and excel forward. So I opened up with that in order to encourage you. Some of you guys, we've all been impacted by the quarantine and all the stuff that's playing out in our society. But sometimes, because of the challenges seems too big, we are afraid that we don't have the tools and the skill set to be able to conquer it. But I want to assure you that sometimes the bigger the challenge is, the more ready we are. Just like in my son's story, how he conquered riding his bike after we went to an open parking lot. So I'm a consultant. I work with businesses, nonprofit, education institutions just like your school, and also K-12. And then I also work with the community. I work with so many different groups of people. And as you can tell in this picture, this is a diverse group. And this sometimes is on a weekly basis, where one day I might be working with student leaders, and the following day I might be working with a police chief at the mayor. I might be working with teachers. I might be working with nonprofits. So my work, it's so different. But the thing that I always say, the secret sauce of my work is helping organizations and individuals maximize their impact and how they engage and learn from one another. That's my secret sauce. That is where I start. So today, I want to show you just a little picture of some of the organizations that I've worked with all over the country. Yes, when you see up there, it says Dancing with the Stars. Yes, 11 years ago, my family and I, we performed on the TV show Dancing with the Stars. Don't tell that to my youngest brother, who's currently 18 years old, because he got picked out a lot at school after he appeared on the show, because everybody was saying, oh, you want to do the dance? I'm just joking. He loved it. But anyways, I get to work with so many different organizations all over the country and all over the world. And I'm here with you today as your keynote presenter. I want to make sure that my presentation touches you where you are and it inspires you. The topic for our presentation today is We Are All Human, Persevere to Excel. We Are All Human is a discussion that I started 4 years ago in the middle of the 2016 election, where everybody was so divisive and were arguing towards one another, very similar to what's happening today. But the picture that you see up is just a setting of what the environment looked like during some of the discussion. And throughout that process, as a true millennial, I knew that I had a diverse group of friends, but they were reaching out to me, asking me very intimate questions around what was playing out throughout the country. And as I started to reflect on it, I realized I might be the only person that my friends get to reach out and have this conversation. What if I created a space where everybody can come together and engage in this conversation? So what I did as a true millennium, I went on Facebook and posted something and said, hey guys, I'm thinking about hosting this event where we bring people together and we talk about what divides us in order to better learn from each other. And when I hosted the first event, I felt so much pressure in my heart, because I felt like, what if I was setting people up for failure? People were going to come together and have this conversation and end up fighting with one another. But I knew that it was important to give it a chance. So on the first event, we had over 45 to 50 people that showed up, and the conversation was around what influences our biases. It was supposed to be an hour-and-a-half presentation, ended up lasting 3 hours. It took people a long time in order for them to adjust, but at the end, everything worked out fine. And I started to reflect on that. I said, wow, we have people from all over different backgrounds, different sexual orientation, different religion, conservatives, progressive, liberals. We had black, white, Hispanic, Asian. We had some Middle Eastern, people from all over, and they came together and they had this intimate conversation. So today for my presentation, half of my focus will be on We Are All Human. What is your intention and how you can bring your positive intention and how you see others come to life. And then the second part is Persevere to Excel. How do you persevere through the challenges that you face in life in order for you to excel forward? So We Are All Human is about How do we connect to others and create the space to think globally beyond our own perspectives? Because a lot of times we tend to protect our point of view and how we see the world, but then we also forget that some of those same perspectives are actually what creates that division where we are super protective on pushing everybody out. And then persevere to excel is about life is not always about flower, right? Meaning it's not always all positive and positive. We all face challenges throughout the course of, and those challenges, they get thrown to us that we might not have any control of them. How do we deal with them? And what's the inner driver that we have that's going to keep us moving forward? So we are all trying to survive, and we want the best for ourselves, for our family members, our friends, and those who we love. But how we show up is influenced by what matters to us. What matters to us is where we put our intention, and our intention only comes to life is when everybody can see it, and then they can measure it by what we do. So for our first presentation, first part, I want to focus on how do you bring your positive intention to life to make an impact? Some of us, we would say, hey, this is how I feel inside my heart. Think of the last time when you argued with someone and you said, hey, this is what I intended. This is what I wanted to. So what happens was your intention and your action did not match. And the person that was in the receiving end did not know where your heart was. And that's why you say, oh, this is what I meant. Our intention equals our being. Our being is the nature or essence of a person. So who you are as a person, what drives you, what influences you, that's your being. And the being is influenced by what we do. So how you show up, your favorite stuff, who you engage with, who you're friends with, all of that is driven by your inner being. And the impact of our being is only measured by what we do externally and how people are able to gravitate towards it and grab onto it and say, so-and-so is this because of what he does or because of what he says. So it's really important. In this presentation, we're going to focus on your positive intention and of how you see others in order for allowing it to permeate and come out. Because at school, you're part of a community and your school is such a diverse school. But you have an opportunity to allow your positive intention to come out and make a positive impact in the surrounding and the environment that you're in. So first, I want to start off with a little bit of story of who I am and where I came from. I know when you're looking at that picture, you're like, wow, his style is cool. Look at that nice panda shirt. Just by the way, if you copy this outfit, I want you to take a picture and tag me on Instagram, Deo Mwano, because you got to give me credit, all right? I myself grew up in the Democratic Republic of Congo, located in the heart of Africa. And most people, when they think of Africa, you probably assume that there's probably a naked kid running around with giraffe and lion and elephant. But I want to tell you that was not my experience. I grew up in a middle-class family in the Congo. And as you can tell in this picture, we had everything that we wanted. My father worked really hard. He worked for the government at the time. And my mother was a homemaker. She took care of my brothers and I. So in the picture in the middle, that's my mother and my two brothers at the time. This was my experience until in 1997, a huge civil war broke out. And during that civil war, so many atrocity happened. So when you live in a country where it's not a democracy, usually what happens is if there's a new government that's trying to take over power, they fight throughout the outskirts until they get into a central place, and then they oust the president out, then they become in power. And this is exactly what was happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo at the time. My father worked for the government, and the president at the time ruled for 32 years, and he was selfish. He did not want to leave power. So what ended up happening, a huge rebellion group broke out. And during this time, so many people died. But I lived in the capital. So the capital is usually the last place where a rebel group would come in and take over power. My mother looked at my father and said, hey, it's time for us to leave. You've worked so hard, but everything that you've done has come to an end. We have to leave the country. My father was stubborn. He said, I don't want to leave this country. I've dedicated my whole entire life to this country. So we stayed and the new government came. Nothing happened to my family. We were not hurt. Nothing bad happened to us. And then all of a sudden, the new government asked all the ex-government officials that were still in the capital to come back and help rebuild the country. And my father said, yes, this is my opportunity to come back and rebuild this country. Mind you, he did not know that this was a trick. This was a new government's way of saying, hey, come, and then we'll have you in our eyesight. And if anything happens where we feel threatened by you, we will kill you. And this is exactly what happened to my father. My father ended up getting assassinated in 1998. And after his assassination, my family and I, we lost everything. And when my father was alive, he helped so many people. He was the example of taking positive intention and making it come to life. We lived in one of the poorest neighborhood in the capital. His workers lived in the bigger houses, drove better cars. Why? Because my father wanted to live a simple life. And this is some of the stuff that he would do. He would buy food and feed the neighborhood. Most of the time, people didn't even know that it was him. So when the new government came, nothing happened to him. He wasn't killed. He started working with the new government. Nobody in our community ever said anything bad about my father. And then all of a sudden, after my father was assassinated, we lost everything. And the positive intention of people that we thought that were going to come alongside us and help us, they were scared. The reason why they were scared is because during that time, the government was killing everybody. So they were afraid that if my family got killed, that they would come and kill them too. So my father's side of family told my mother, hey, give us the children and go restart your life. And my mother said, no way, I'm not going to give up my children. And my father's side of family washed their hands because they were afraid. So they took their positive intention around being family members, always being there when my father was around. And they thought at the time, in their dire need, they thought that, hey, let's give this lady an alternative. Give us the children and go restart your life. The reason they did that was because they were trying to protect themselves. But unfortunately, when my mother said no, they excluded us. Everything we had, everybody we knew, washed their hands on us. My mother started writing letters and she started saying, I'm not going to give up. As long as we're still alive, we're going to do everything we can to help us get out of this country. And then some NGOs that were in the Congo at the time found our story super interesting and they wanted to help us out. So those people came and they took their positive intention. They started to help my mother. They started to coach him. And then eventually, in 1999, we got out of the Democratic Republic of Congo and we moved to our refugee camp. The picture that you see right there, that's a refugee camp in Western Africa in Benin. And during this time, this was a state-of-the-art refugee camp where they had brick walls, they had tin roof. When the rain would fall, we would be in there. Nothing bad happened to us. But just to remind you, most refugee camps throughout Africa, people have tarp as their roof. They have tree branches. That's how they survive. And then on top of that, most refugees in the world right now, they spend 17 to 24 years before they find out if they're going to move to a different country. So my family and I, we only lived in this refugee camp for 1.5 years. And then we ended up moving to the coldest place on earth, Manchester, New Hampshire, in February. Mind you, I came from the equator, the heart of Africa, to Manchester, New Hampshire, the coldest place on earth, in February. And when we came to New Hampshire, we didn't know anybody except the hope and freedom of a better life. So when I was telling you earlier about we are all human, taking your positive intention and bringing it to life, my mother had nothing at all. Her husband was assassinated, and she didn't know that if my family was going to get assassinated too. But it was her positive intention that she had in her heart is what gave her courage and strength and allow her to be creative and never give up. And the people that came alongside us learned about our story, and they took their positive intention and activated and helped us move to a refugee camp. And then we moved to Manchester, New Hampshire. When we moved to Manchester, New Hampshire, we had no friends, nobody, no food, except the hope and freedom. A local church that we ended up starting to go to, they found out that this family from the Congo moved. Their skin color was not the same as ours. The language they spoke wasn't the same. But all they knew was, this lady has 4 children. We're going to do whatever we can in order to support her. So some of the pictures that you're seeing, those were some of the pictures the first couple of years when we first moved to America. This family took us in, birthdays, holidays. They took us in. This was the Charbonneau and the Bissonnette family. They took their positive intention and they activated it because they believed that we were human just like they were. And for us, a family that had nothing, we were starting from zero, and made such a critical part in our life when we first moved to America. They helped my mother learn how to drive. They even went as far as co-signing her in her first car. Some of you guys will never, ever co-sign even your family member because you put your credit on the line. But co-signing a car for a random African lady, that's unbelievable. That's what it's all about when you activate your positive intention, when you view others as humans. So I didn't even want to put this slide up. I was contemplating throughout my presentation, and I said, do I really want to put this up? The reason why is we all know that the racial tension in this country has been boiling up since spring. And the reality is the experiences of African American in this country has been very, very negative. Even on its foundation, how African Americans came to this country in the 1600s as slaves. They were viewed less than humans, and their experience continued to be worse and worse. They fought for their freedom, and they fought so hard to have the same equality. It took from the 1600s until the late 1800s during the Civil War, when the Emancipation of Proclamation was made by Abraham Lincoln, that black people needed to be freed, that there were no longer slaves. And after the Civil War, you would think that everything changed and it got better for African Americans. No, it did not. You had to wait again until 1960s during the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King and other founding fathers of the African American movement that led the freedom of blacks being able to vote and blacks having equality in fighting for desegregating schools and communities. But today, some of those same systematics that were put in place that prevented blacks from moving forward continue to be infused in our society. And blacks are the ones that are living in some of the poorest neighborhoods throughout the country. And most of you, when I put this, it changes the narrative a little bit. At first, you were like, oh, I'm following along with this guy's story. He came from Africa. He went through crazy stuff. But moving to America, I'm affiliated. I'm the same as them, regardless of what my background is. Because for some people, they're just going to look at my skin color and they're going to follow the negative narrative of how black people are perceived. So the racial tension that's playing out in this country today, many black people resonate with them. And I put up this photo because it's the murder of these three individuals is what has allowed all the uprising happening and people asking for change and positive impact. So I'm asking you, how do you see others that are different from you? Is it impacted by false narrative? Is it impacted by negative narrative? Do you have cross-cultural experiences and relationships? How do you interact with those who are around you within your campus at NHTI that are different from you? Do you create a space to learn from them? Do you create a space to confront your own negative perspective that you might have on them that's not based on any reality? That's the only way we can treat one another and see one another as human, is by creating a space that allows us to be able to confront ourselves so we can move forward. So it's important to be able to disrupt your perspective by fostering an inclusive community. You are a part of so many different communities. And the family that came alongside my family and said, listen, we don't care what your skin color is. We don't care what your socioeconomic is. We're going to come alongside you and help in whichever way that we can. And it wasn't even about the money. It was about the relationship that they were able to develop and to get to know our story. So today, I want to inspire you. I want to motivate you. How can you come alongside people and neutralize yourself in order to listen and get to know people? The first thing is the way you listen. The first thing is also conquering your fear, the negative perspective you might have on other people, and say, you know what? I'm going to give them a benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to relax and put my fear down so I can just learn. And as you're listening, it's not about listening and objecting within your head. It's about listening and hearing the story at its face value. It's not about being protective and saying, is that right? Is that wrong? No, it's about listening with curiosity and saying, tell me more. How did that happen? And as you allow yourself to gather the information, you're also informing your mind and experiences you might not have. So let's talk about persevere to excel. This pandemic has impacted all of us, regardless of what socioeconomics you have. And how you persevere through the challenges of this season will determine where you end up on the opposite side. And I'm here to encourage you. The way that I define persevere to excel is self-explanatory. It's exceeding the average takes sustained effort. The energy that comes within you is where the effort comes from. But what is perseverance? Where does it come from? What fuels it? Perseverance is often mistaken for toughing it out. But toughing it out is an adrenaline rush. Good for the short run, but not for the long haul. It's like a Red Bull. You take it real quick, you feel energized, you might be able to get all this stuff, and then boom. Toughing it out is running on empty, which is not sustainable. Perseverance, on the other hand, is a renewable energy source. It is fueled through constant introspection and acquisition by forces inside you and outside you. Only by identifying those forces is perseverance possible. And only with genuine perseverance is it possible to actually excel. And I want to start by emphasizing the story about my mother. When she had nothing at all, when she didn't even know if her and her children were going to be alive, it's the energy and the faith and the belief that she believed that there was going to be a better future. That's where it started. So perseverance starts with believing. And when you start believing, you then take it and you actualize it. You start visualizing, what does that belief mean? If you believe that things are going to get better, if you believe that regardless how tough and challenging this semester is, you're going to be able to get on the other side in a positive way. That's where the belief begins. And that's where the perseverance starts. The second is about process. You want to put a process in place that encourages the effort that you need to have in order for you to move forward. So for my mother, it wasn't just sitting there crying and saying, I believe that things are going to get better, but doing nothing. So when she put a process together, she started knocking on doors, reaching out to all the NGOs, the non-governmental agencies from all over the world that were in the Congo at the time, and telling them my family's story and saying that if you don't help us, we're going to end up dying. And every time she went out to tell people her story, she jeopardized my family's life even more. But she went back to the belief that we were going to be okay and that we're going to get out the situation. That's what drove her. And eventually, those organizations connected with her and believed in her and did everything they could to help us get out of the Congo, move to a refugee camp, and then we moved to America, the richest country on earth. So that's the process. So for you, as you're looking at this semester and you're saying, man, my hours are cut. I might not have enough money to pay for school, but I believe that this is the path that I need to be in right now. Take that and actualize it and start thinking creatively. When your energy gets low, when you want to focus on the negative impact, get in your books, create a system. Build a network of people that you trust that can come alongside you. Friends, family members that you trust in. Teachers, counselors, whoever it is that you have. But it's going to start from you taking that effort and that action first in order to activate the perseverance and the effort that lives within you so you can move forward. And every milestones that you make. So for my mother, the milestone that we had was the fact that we were still alive, that we had food to eat that day. So for you, that milestone might be logging in on Canvas or whatever learning management system you guys use. If it's Canvas or Blackboard, logging in, participating in discussion board, participating in groups, participating in different social clubs within the schools, submitting your work, attending the test, submitting your projects. Every single one of those actions are part of your milestones. You notice that I'm not talking about results. For a lot of us, in order for us to persevere, we want to see instant result. But sometimes when we're in the process phase, we're not going to be able to see the result. Just like my mother, when she was working with those nonprofits that were saying, hey, we have a plan, we're working on something. At any time, the government could have came and just killed us at that moment. But she believed that every milestone that she was making, the fact that those organizations believed in our story and they said they were going to help us and they started to try different things. So for you, what is it going to be the process that you're going to put in place in order for you to have your own milestone? And those milestones are going to keep you afloat this semester. That's how you create from a ground level the energy and strength with realistic action item that's going to help you to move forward. Because perseverance comes within you. It's the energy that lives within you. That's what's going to help you move forward. So I want to encourage you. What is it for you? Take this time and really reflect real quick. What's going to keep you afloat during this semester when things get tough, when things get challenging? Who do you know that you want to reach out to that's going to be your accountability partners, that's going to be your supporters, people that you can call that will just listen to you and encourage you and pump you up so you can continue in the journey? How can you design alliances with your teachers and your professors to let them know that you are serious about this journey and you want to succeed and you want to move forward? Because believing is where it starts first. The process is where the action lives. And the consistency is what's going to allow you to continue to move forward. So I want to tell you this quick story. So after being in the state for about 2.5 years, I ended up starting to go to this private school called St. Joseph. For my mother, she knew that education was the only path that we had in order for us to succeed because she did not have a lot of money. She worked factory jobs in the evening, first shift, second shift, sometimes third shift, in order to provide for us. But she knew that the pathway for us, in order for us to move out of poverty, we had to focus on education. So I had a chance to go to this private school. There's about probably 250 students there. And there's only 3 black kids. And this experience changed everything for me. I could have easily looked at it and said, man, I want to go back to the school where I was going, where I had other friends that came from all over the world. But I view this as an opportunity for me to excel and move forward. My teachers in this school, they didn't compromise my learning. They didn't say, oh, because you came from Africa like 2 years ago, let's water down our curriculum so you can. No. They gave me the same amount of work as my other friends who grew up in this country and who also had means, more resources in order to close the gap. They had tutors, they had all of this. But during this time, I started to develop relationship with my friend's family. And I also realized that at the time, I was probably the only black person that they ever had for lunch or for dinner at their home, or they even allowed in their car. But I always stayed grounded. I accepted what I had. I never compared what I didn't have. And throughout this experience, this allowed me to excel and move forward. I graduated from middle school and ended up going to a public school where I was there for 3 years. And during that time, between middle school and high school, I joined an organization called Youth with a Mission, where I traveled all over the world. Actually, I traveled all over America, inner city America, to different neighborhoods using performing art and using stories in order to motivate and help people. And that experience is where I was exposed to inner city America, was able to learn more about minority communities throughout America. Because in my community in New Hampshire, it wasn't as diverse. But when I started to travel to East Side, West Side Chicago, East Side, West Side Philly, Jamaica, Queens, Brooklyn, Jamaican Plains, all these different places, that's when I started to learn about the disparity that black and brown community faced in America. And that created a passion in my heart, because what I started realizing is every time I told my story, people were moved by my story. I ended up graduating out of high school. And when I graduated out of high school, I was accepted to 6 different universities. And I had to make a decision. I wanted to stay close home, so I ended up attending a university in New Hampshire so I can be closer to my younger brothers, because I was the oldest. So just think about that real quick. I went from my father being assassinated to losing everything, not even knowing if I was going to be alive, and then moving to America. And then 8 years later, graduating out of high school and attending college and traveling all over America to tell my story and motivate people and students and families. That's what perseverance is all about. It's looking at opportunities that you have, exciting yourself and energizing your inner being so you can push forward regardless of what challenge that you face, and not allowing the experiences of others to drive you, for you to continue to focus on what matters to you so you can continue to move forward. That's what perseverance is about. And then when I got to college, I started to travel all over different places, speaking to different audiences from all over different places, and I used my story to motivate others. And that motivation led me to communities like Pennsylvania, Minneapolis, everywhere, and my story brought hope. And that also became a way to keep me grounded in what I felt like I needed to do and where I needed to be in order to move forward. I ended up graduating from college. And after I graduated from college, I started to work corporately. Started to work for the State Department. I was a political science major, and I went back for my MBA, and I got my MBA, and I started working for the State Department. But I always felt like I needed to be grounded within my community. Regardless of how hard things got, I still focused on forward momentum and what I needed to do to move forward. I joined an organization called Bring It. Bring It was about bringing in students from the community from 4th grade and 12th grade. There is where I found my grounding, because I started to meet other refugees and immigrant youth that moved to Manchester. And I pictured myself from where I was 11 to 12 years ago. I decided that regardless of what was happening, I would still be plugged in with my community so I can help support the youth and the families in whichever way I could. And at Bring It, the students were the ones that were keeping me informed on some of the challenges our community was facing, but also some of the success. I saw myself in the students. I was involved with the dance program. We would run dance from 4th grade all the way up to 12th grade from all the different schools. We would turn the cafeteria into a dance studio every Tuesday and every Wednesday. Those are the stuff that kept me grounded, because it was about what can I offer back to my community. That's what perseverance is about. As you persevere, you're also looking at what are opportunities for you to make an impact. And that impact is not about you, it's about how others benefit from it. And that's another picture of my Bring It family. I've met so many different amazing students. And the crazy part is some of the students that I worked with since they were little kids, since they were in elementary school, now they've graduated of college. Some of them have kids, some of them gotten married. It's been an amazing thing. So I want to throw it back to you. As you hear my story about we are all human and persevere to excel, I want to throw it back to you. The key here is about engagement. Engaging and activating and being involved, and then relationship. Relationship building has always been my motto. And as you think about this season, as you think about this semester, where things are within the world around us, what's impacting you and what's happening, it's really important to think about what is it going to take to move you forward? What is it going to take to keep you grounded? It's important to be able to activate your inner being and to be involved. Sometimes you might find that when you take yourself out of the picture and you focus on what are the things that can you do based on your skill set and your talent in order to contribute within the community you're in, it gives you a greater purpose. It allows you to be able to move forward without worrying about the negative impact that's impacting you. So for me, when I got out of college and I started to work corporately, my financial stuff was a little bit different because now I had a little bit of momentum. I had stability. But I also realized if I'm going to continue to move forward, I got to be involved. So part of that involvement is also responsibility. What is your responsibility? When you see issues that are impacting others and you have a voice and you have that gut feeling that where you feel like you know that it's negative, it's important to speak out. And as you speak out, sometimes you expose yourself. So I want to tell you quick story about this picture. So on the top left, this was probably 3 years ago. I attended a conference, and part of that conference, it was about how to workforce in New Hampshire can diversify in order to bring in talent from diverse background. And then an article was written in the New York Times that talked about it had a very controversial title that said New Hampshire is 94% white. What are you going to do about it? And then people decided to react to it. There was a lot of backlash. Even Tucker Carlson from Fox ended up doing a thing on it. But the picture that you see, I was not even quoted in the article, just a picture of mine. And I started to get this hate mail. I started to get different people writing on my wife's Facebook page, cussing her out, posting negative stuff on my children's photo. That's what happens when you step out. To me, when you believe in something, when you believe that everybody are human, we are all human, you have to be able to activate and you have to be able to have action that represents that. Another photo you see on the right is about the federal government decided that they wanted to give each state the power to decide if they're going to be a welcoming state regarding refugees. So New Hampshire decided that they're going to be a welcoming state, but they gave the power to the town and the city. And I went in front of the aldermen in my city to talk about it. And then the one on the left was a former mayor who was the mayor of Manchester at the time, said some derogatory stuff towards refugees. So I showed up in an alderman meeting to speak out against it. And then on the right was most recently, this was an initiative in Manchester called Manchester Proud, where the community, teachers, parents, students came together in order to come up with a plan that was going to help the school system move forward, the school district move forward positively. So I come back to, now it's about you. As you heard my story and as you heard my points, I want to encourage you. What does it mean for you? How can you view others as human? How can you take your positive intention that you have and how you see others and activate it so you can act upon it? I leave you with this 3 questions. What influence how you see others that are different from you? 3 positive things that influences how you see others that are different from you, and 3 negative things. And as you reflect on the 3 positive things, what are the 3 positive things? Why is it? And as you reflect on the negative thing, why is the negative things there? Why is it there? And as you reflect on that, think about what responsibility that you have in order to treat others fairly, in order to treat others as human. A lot of times we are afraid that when we meet people where they are and we neutralize ourselves, then we lose our power. We're setting ourselves up to be hurt. But it's not about that. If it was the other way around, you would want people to meet you where you are as well. And in terms of persevere to excel, I want to go back to this. How do you create that consistency? What are those reminders that you can put in place when things get tough, when things get hard, to remind you that you are on this journey and you can't give up? Do you have a notebook? Do you journal? Do you take notes on your cell phone? Do you have images and sound and music that you listen to that gives you energy? Those are the stuff that you're going to need to put in place in order to keep you moving. And my last remark is this. NHTI, you guys are a family. You guys are a community. Don't miss an opportunity to come and get to know one another. Don't allow the divisiveness pull you away from being authentic and allowing your positive intention that lives within you to not manifest. Take ownership and allow that to be how you show up. And for you personally, persevere to excel. Take ownership. Identify what those positive will drivers that are within you in order to make them visible. So when things get tough, you're going to hold on strong and you're going to continue to move forward. And the last thing is engage. Stay engaged. Don't allow anything to deter you from where you want to be and where you want to go. You have to be your own champion. We are all human. Persevere to excel. Go get it. And my last remark for you is I'm going to be running a workshop today. At the end of the day, this afternoon, please sign up for my workshop. This is a way for you to dive deeper, ask me questions. We can talk about tangible ways that you can activate your leadership within your school, within your families, within your work, within your community, so you can be engaged and continue to push forward and take the positive intention that lives within you that you haven't had a chance to activate it, so you can activate it and push forward. Thank you so much, NHTI, for bringing me in, for listening to my presentation, and I hope you guys have an awesome year. Don't give up the battle. Continue to work hard. It's all about how you move forward. Remember, you have the energy that you need within you. You just have to activate it in how you show up and how you treat others and how you persevere through the challenges that come against you. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
you.